Peter and Jennifer met in a small cafe on the outskirts of the city. Peter, a modest programmer passionate about his career, went there for his morning coffee. Jennifer, a bright and charismatic girl, worked there as a waitress. Her light laugh and sincere smile immediately attracted his attention. At first, Peter was too shy to start a conversation, but Jennifer made the first move after noticing how he came in at the same time every day and ordered the same thing. She smiled and asked, "Aren't you tired of drinking the same coffee?" It was a simple but sincere attempt to start a conversation, and Peter immediately felt that she was different from the others. Soon their morning meetings became a tradition. Jennifer liked to joke about his attachment to routine, and Peter enjoyed her lively personality and ability to see beauty in little things. Their romance developed quickly. Despite their different characters, they complemented each other. Jennifer helped Peter get out of his comfort zone, taught him to enjoy life and find joy in spontaneity. Peter, in turn, gave her a sense of stability and security that she had been looking for so long after several failed relationships. Over time, Jennifer changed jobs and began to pursue photography, which had always been her passion. Peter supported her along the way, buying her her first professional camera and helping her create a website for her portfolio. Their love seemed strong despite some minor differences. After 3 years of dating, Peter finally decided to take the important step of proposing. He wanted to make this moment special, unforgettable, so that every time Jennifer remembered it, she would smile. He chose a quiet evening by the river, where they loved to spend time together. The sky was already covered with a soft veil of stars, and a light breeze played with the leaves of the trees, filling the air with the aroma of freshness and summer peace. On the shore, Peter laid out a blanket, neatly arranged a basket of treats, and turned on a small portable speaker, from which their favorite tune flowed. Jennifer sat cross-legged next to him and quietly laughed at his jokes, not suspecting that this evening would change their lives. Peter, at first glance calm, was full of excitement inside. In his pocket lay a small velvet box, and its weight seemed to increase with every second. He breathed in the cool air, trying to calm his racing heart. "Have you ever thought how strange life works?" he asked unexpectedly, looking at her face, which was softly illuminated by the moonlight. "What do you mean?" She smiled, a little surprised at his thoughtful tone. "Well, how chance encounters turn into the most important things. How can one meeting in a bookstore lead to this?" He gestured around their little world, the stars, the river, the two of them. Jennifer smiled shyly, remembering the day when she accidentally dropped the book, and he helped pick it up, and from that moment did not let her out of his life. Peter sighed, as if gathering his courage, and finally got down on one knee. At that moment, the whole universe froze for him. He took out the box and opened it, revealing an elegant ring with a small sparkling stone. "Jennifer," his voice trembled, but he collected himself, looking into her eyes, which opened wide in surprise. "You changed my life," made her brighter, fuller, happier. "With you, I understood what love, peace, home is. I want to be by your side always. Will you marry me?" Her eyes filled with tears, and for a moment she seemed speechless. Looking at him, so sincere and vulnerable at that moment, she felt her heart overflowing with happiness. "Peter," she whispered, covering her mouth with her hand to hold back her sobs. "You have no idea how long I've been waiting for this." "Yes, 1,000 times yes," he exhaled with relief, and the happiest smile she had ever seen bloomed on his face. Peter placed the ring on her finger, and it shone softly in the moonlight. "Are you sure?" he joked, rising to his feet and pulling her towards him. "I'm more confident than ever," she smiled through her tears and hugged him so tightly, as if she never wanted to let go. The river whispered its melody, the stars shone brighter than usual, and their laughter echoed through the silence of the night. Now this night will forever remain in their memory as the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. Their wedding was small, but truly warm and soulful. Peter and Jennifer decided that this day should be dedicated only to the closest and most important people, so they began preparations several months before the event. These were days filled with excitement, joy, and funny moments that their families and friends remembered more than once. Peter and Jennifer agreed from the very beginning. Everything should be simple, but tasteful. They chose a cozy site on the outskirts of the city, next to a field that was covered with blooming cornflowers in the summer. "Imagine how beautiful it will be," Jennifer said, showing Peter the photographs. "Flowers, candles, sunset. I can only imagine your happy look," he answered, not taking his eyes off her. Jennifer rolled her eyes but smiled. Peter always knew how to make her feel special. Jennifer's family was small. Her mother, Catherine, was always not only her parent, but also her best friend. The father, David, was a silent man, but at the same time, deep love for his daughter was always visible in his gaze. "Are you sure everything will fit in this small garden?" Catherine asked, helping to choose the decor. "Maybe we should invite more people?" "Mom," Jennifer answered with a smile, "what's important to us is not the number of guests, but their warmth." "Okay, but don't forget that I love sunflowers," Catherine added with a wink. On Peter's side, there was a real clan. Older brother Michael, who always loved to joke, sister Sarah, caring and emotional, and their parents Robert and Linda, a strong couple who served as an example for everyone. "I don't understand why you need minimalism." Michael was indignant at a family dinner. "A wedding should be with a sparkle. We'll leave the light for your wedding," Peter joked, which caused everyone to laugh. The bridesmaids, Jennifer's childhood friend Emma, and her colleague, the cheerful and energetic Claire, took on the task of organizing the bachelorette party. "I'm not sure if I want a bachelorette party with dancers," Jennifer said sheepishly when Emma suggested the party idea. "Then we'll just have a cozy evening with champagne and movies," Claire assured her, adding, "But the dancers are still on the list in case you change your mind." Peter's friends didn't waste any time either. His friend Jason was planning a bachelor party, which ended not without incident. "The main thing is that you are able to stand at the altar in the morning," Jennifer teased as he laughed about the details. "Do you have the same requirements for yourself?" He answered with a smile. The bachelorette party began in Claire's cozy apartment, which she turned into a real relaxation area. Soft blankets, garlands of lights, the scent of candles with notes of vanilla and champagne. There were gourmet hors d'oeuvres on the table and a selection of face masks nearby. Claire wanted it to be a relax and beauty party. "Well, let's start our bachelorette party with a toast," Emma declared, holding a glass in her hand. "For Jennifer, the most wonderful bride who has put up with us for so many years, and for her courage to marry such an unpredictable but incredibly kind guy like Peter," Claire added with a wink. Jennifer raised her glass, smiling. "And I want to say thank you for being here with me and making this evening so cozy." After the first toast, board games began. Truth or Dare was a particularly big laugh, with Claire having to sing karaoke while standing on her chair and Emma having to tell her most ridiculous school story. "So that's why you missed the test then," Jennifer exclaimed, laughing until she cried. Later the evening turned to watching movies. They chose classic romantic comedies and wrapped themselves in blankets. "Are you sure you don't want dancers?" Claire asked at one point with a sly smile. "Absolutely," Jennifer waved it off. "But if you've already called them, you'll have to feed them." Claire laughed loudly. "Well, while they are driving, we will have time to open another bottle of champagne." And although there were no dancers, the evening turned out to be perfect. Jennifer felt loved and happy. Meanwhile, Peter's bachelor party took place in a completely different style. Jason organized it in a rented house outside the city. The house was equipped with a pool table, consoles, and a huge grill. "We're starting this evening with a barbecue and ending with—" "Well, we'll see how it goes," Jason said, handing out drinks to everyone. "The main thing is that I'll be able to put on a suit tomorrow," Peter grinned. They started by playing billiards. Michael, Peter's older brother, turned out to be a master of improvisation and spent the entire game making fun of every mistake. "Peter, I didn't even know you could hold a cue so awkwardly," he laughed, watching the ball roll back in the opposite direction. Later, Jason suggested playing poker for assignments. There were funny challenges at stake, like calling a random number and declaring your love. "Okay, guys, get ready to laugh," Peter said, having lost another round. He had to do a ridiculous dance in front of a disco ball that was on. When the games were over, the evening turned to stories. The men discussed old stories, remembering funny and awkward moments from life. "Remember the first time you tried to ask Jennifer out on a date?" Jason asked. "Oh, that was a disastrous day," Peter sighed, smiling. "I called back so many times because I couldn't decide where it was best to meet." "But apparently he decided correctly, since we are here," Michael concluded. At some point, a food truck organized by Jason arrived at the house. "If this isn't the best bachelor party, I don't know what is," Peter said, holding his burger in his hand. Both the bachelorette and bachelor parties ended late at night. How did it go? Jennifer asked when she met Peter the next day to discuss their parties. "We had everything, billiards, poker, and dancing," Peter answered with a smile. "And you?" "We had movies, champagne, and endless conversations," she said, kissing him. "I think it was a great finale before our big day," he added, hugging her. Both realized that neither dancers nor big parties could replace the sincerity and warmth they found in their loved ones. Jennifer went to choose a dress with her mother and friends. "This is the same," Emma exclaimed when Jennifer put on a light, delicate dress with lace. "You look like a princess," her mother said touchingly, wiping away tears. "So this is it," Jennifer nodded, examining her reflection. Peter, on the contrary, took a simpler approach to choosing a suit. He opted for a classic blue suit, and Sarah insisted on adding a statement bow tie. "It will make you unforgettable," she said, laughing. The morning of their wedding day began with a bit of chaos, which was completely natural for such a special day. Jennifer woke up early, although she barely slept due to excitement. Her heart was fluttering with anticipation. Catherine, her mother, was already making coffee in the kitchen and quietly humming to herself the tune that Jennifer sang as a child. "Good morning, my future missus," Claire said with a smile, rushing into the room with a bouquet of roses. "Good. I feel like I'm about to faint," Jennifer answered, laughing, but still took her friend's hand to calm down. "You will be the most beautiful bride," Emma assured her, holding the dress, which seemed to glow in the morning rays. On the other side of town, Peter nervously adjusted his tie in front of the mirror, while Michael tried to calm his nervousness. "Relax, brother. She loves you, you love her, everything will be perfect," Michael said, patting him on the shoulder. "I know, I want her to remember this day as the best day of her life," Peter answered. "Her happiness will be visible in her eyes." "Just be yourself," Jason added, handing Peter a cup of coffee, which he promptly spilled on himself. "Are you serious?" Peter laughed, grabbing a napkin. "Remind me to drink only water." Guests began to gather on the site, surrounded by flowers and soft sunlight. Claire was running around with the last of the bouquets, and Emma was checking the seating arrangements of the guests. "This place is simply fabulous," said one of Catherine's friends, looking at the white arches decorated with cornflowers and ribbons. In the bride's room, Jennifer stood in front of the mirror, ready in her dress. She looked at her father, who came in to see her off. "You're just amazing," David whispered, his voice shaking. "Thank you, Dad," she replied warmly. "Are you sure?" he asked, jokingly to hide his emotions. "I'm more confident than ever," she said, and, taking his arm, added, "I love you, Dad." When Jennifer walked down the aisle, everything froze. Peter, standing by the arch, felt his breath catch. Her dress, her smile, her look, everything was like a dream come true. "She's just an angel," Jason whispered, standing next to him. "My angel," Peter answered quietly, without taking his eyes off Jennifer. David, leading her by the arm, looked at her. "Are you happy?" "Yes, Dad," she said, and her voice sounded like a melody. As they approached the altar, David, passing his daughter's hand to Peter, said quietly, "Take care of her the way she deserves." "With all my soul," Peter answered firmly. When the moment came to say his vows, Peter took a deep breath. "Jennifer, you made me a better person." You taught me to see beauty in little things, to love sincerely, and to be grateful for every day. I promise to take care of you, support you, and be your support in everything." Jennifer couldn't hold back her tears. She took his hand and said, "Peter, you are my home. You are the one who makes me laugh, who supports me in difficult times, who makes my life complete. I promise to love you with all my heart and be your family." When they were announced as husband and wife, the guests applauded loudly. Their kiss was tender and filled with love, as if at that moment only the two of them existed. After the ceremony, an open-air dinner began. Laughter, warm speeches, and happy faces of relatives filled the air. "You two are alike," Michael said in his toast, causing everyone to laugh. "And I want to say that the love of Peter and Jennifer inspires us all," Catherine added. The celebration continued until the night, until the first stars lit up the sky. This day remained forever in their hearts as a symbol of the beginning of a new life, full of love and happiness. After the wedding, Jennifer and Peter began discussing where to go on their honeymoon. And if for Jennifer the choice was an exciting adventure, for Peter it was more like a difficult quest. "How about a cozy house in the mountains?" Peter suggested, sitting at the kitchen table and looking at the brochure. Fresh air, walks, evenings by the fireplace. "A house in the mountains?" Jennifer asked incredulously, smiling. "Are you suggesting we run away into the forest after our fairy tale wedding?" "Well, that sounds romantic," he shrugged. "Romantic?" She laughed, leaning on the table and looking into his eyes. "This is boring, Peter. We must choose something unusual that will be remembered for a lifetime." "Okay, your move." He folded his arms over his chest. "Where do you want to go?" Jennifer pulled out a brochure with the title Hedonism Roman III in large letters on the cover and a picture of a colorful beach with cocktails and dancing people. "This?" Peter raised his eyebrows in surprise, studying the picture. "Do you want to go to a resort for adults?" "This is not just a resort, it's freedom, an adventure," Jennifer explained excitedly, flipping through the pages. "There are beach parties, themed dinners, sunrise yoga classes, and even outdoor pools. I'm not sure I want to be part of." He thought for a moment, searching for words. "Someone's freedom." "Peter," she hugged him by the shoulders, looking into his eyes. "This is not only about freedom. It's about trying something new together. This is our chance to step out of our comfort zone." He thought about it. On the one hand, the idea really seemed too bold, but on the other, he wanted this honeymoon to be something unforgettable for Jennifer. "Are you sure?" he finally asked. "Absolutely," she replied, adding with a sly smile, "Besides, you can always stay in the lounge chair with a cocktail while I explore the territory." "I convinced you," he sighed, although deep down he still doubted. The days before departure were filled with bustle. Jennifer enthusiastically packed her suitcase, adding colorful dresses and swimsuits. "Don't you think that you have too many things for one suitcase?" Peter asked, watching her struggle to zip up the zipper. "It's not things, it's a mood," she answered with a smile. "What are you collecting?" "Shorts, t-shirts, and a book," he responded dryly. "A book?" She rolled her eyes. "You're not thinking of spending your entire vacation in your room, are you?" "I was thinking about relaxing at least a little, rather than dancing with strangers until the morning," he teased. "Peter, just trust me." She walked over and hugged him. "It will be incredible." When the plane landed, Jennifer gazed in delight at the panoramic views of the island. Peter, on the other hand, looked slightly tense. "Are you ready?" she asked, taking his hand. "I'm trying to be," he replied with a smile. When they arrived at Hedonism Roman III, Peter was surprised. The place looked much more luxurious than he expected. Snow-white beaches, manicured gardens, and laughter coming from the open bar. "I admit, it's not as bad as I thought," he said, helping her out of the taxi. "I told you so," she answered, beaming with happiness. But there was a feeling in the air that something more than just a vacation awaited them. When Jennifer and Peter arrived at the resort, they were greeted by smiling staff offering cocktails in tall glasses with colorful umbrellas. Everything around was like something out of a tropical fairy tale. Snow-white beaches, palm trees rustling in the wind, and the sounds of Caribbean music coming from afar. "What do you say, Peter?" Jennifer asked, looking at her husband with shining eyes. "It's colorful," he answered with a forced smile, trying to hide his confusion from the unusual atmosphere. They opened the door to their room, and Jennifer instantly felt her heart fill with joy. The spacious room was bathed in soft cream and blue tones, as if created to highlight the natural beauty of the tropics outside the window. A greeting from the staff awaited them on the bed, towels folded in the shape of swans and red rose petals neatly scattered on the snow-white bedspread. "Peter, look!" Jennifer exclaimed, pointing to the terrace, which had a stunning view of the ocean. She dropped her suitcase, ran to the glass doors, and swung them open. Her light summer dress blew up from a gust of wind, and the sun, setting behind the horizon, colored her hair gold. Peter froze for a moment, watching her. She looked like a movie heroine, alive, happy, radiant. "It's just perfect here," she said again, turning to him. Her eyes shone with delight. Peter walked up, slowly put his arm around her shoulders, and pulled her close to him. The two of them stood on the terrace, watching the sun gradually disappear below the horizon, leaving behind a palette of pink, orange, and purple. A light sea breeze brought with it the smell of salt water and the scent of jasmine, which spread throughout the resort. "You're right. It's beautiful," Peter said quietly, but his voice sounded softer, warmer. "Just look at these colors." Jennifer pointed to the sky. "It's like a painting created especially for us." He smiled, looking not at the sunset, but at her. "The picture is beautiful, but nothing compares to what's in front of me," he said quietly, causing Jennifer to turn around and meet his gaze. "You're a real romantic," she whispered, blushing slightly, and ran her hand over his cheek. "Only for you," he replied, leaning down to kiss her tenderly. Their kiss was soft, but filled with tenderness. For a moment, the whole world around ceased to exist. Only the two of them, the smell of the sea, and the sunset that witnessed their love. "Do you think this place will change us?" she asked, still looking at the fiery pink sky. "I don't know, but I know one thing for sure. Wherever we go, no matter what happens, I will always be there," he answered, squeezing her hand. "Then I'm not afraid of anything," Jennifer said with a smile, leaning on him. Shoulder. The evening was just beginning, but they already felt that something special was waiting for them ahead. Before going to the restaurant for dinner, they indulged in intimacy. What would it be like without it? It's a honeymoon. The evening at the resort promised to be special. They agreed to go to one of the main restaurants, Hedonism Roman 3. This was their first appearance after their arrival, and Jennifer wanted to make an impression not only on those around her, but also on her husband. She stood in front of the mirror in her room, looking at herself in the dress she had bought especially for this trip. It was a short, tight dress with a low back, made of silk that seductively emphasized the curves of her figure. The thin straps barely held the dress up, and the bright red color attracted attention at first glance. "Well, how?" she asked, turning to Peter, who had already put on a light linen suit and was sitting on the bed, tying his shoelaces. Peter looked up and his breath hitched for a moment. She looked amazing, like she stepped off the cover of a magazine. Her long legs, thin waist, and radiant gaze all spoke of her confidence and femininity. But at the same time, the dress was so revealing that he felt everything tense inside him. "That's impressive," he said, trying to find the words. "Impressive?" Jennifer asked, frowning slightly. "Don't you think it's too bold?" He stood up and walked over to her, looking in the mirror. His hands gently rested on her shoulders. "You look incredible," he said, smiling. "But this dress attracts attention, maybe even too much attention." She turned around and, frowning, asked, "Do you think I shouldn't wear it?" "No, that's not the point," he answered quickly, trying to smooth out the tension. I know that you will be the most beautiful woman in the restaurant, and honestly, I wish only I could see it." Jennifer blushed slightly, but her eyes sparkled. "Peter, are you jealous?" He smiled and shrugged slightly. "Maybe. I just don't want anyone else to enjoy this view," he said, running his hand along her waistline. "This dress is for me, not for everyone else." Jennifer laughed and stood on her tiptoes to kiss him. "You know how to say things that make me feel even more confident." They went to the main restaurant of the resort, which was open under the starry sky. Tables with white tablecloths, candles flickering playfully in glasses of wine, and live music created a festive atmosphere. "We need to try everything," Jennifer said with a smile, opening the menu. "There are even local dishes here." "I think I'll start with something familiar," Peter answered, deciding to order a steak. Their dinner was going smoothly until two men approached the next table. Brad and Tom looked like they stepped off the cover of a fashion magazine. Tall, confident, they immediately attracted attention. Jennifer stole a glance at them, but it didn't escape Peter. "They look like they were born for this place," she noted in a whisper. "So we don't fit in?" he asked with a smile, but there was a slight awkwardness in his voice. A few minutes later, their tables were combined. Brad, smiling lightly, began the conversation. "Is this your first time here?" "Yes, this is our honeymoon," Jennifer answered, her voice sounding warm and open. "Honeymoon?" Tom was surprised, raising his glass. "Well, then you need to drink for this. How many times have you been here?" Peter asked, trying to keep the conversation going. "Already the third," Brad replied. "This place is like a magnet. Here people discover a new side of themselves." "Yes, everything here is built on freedom," Tom added. "You forget about everything that held you back before." Jennifer nodded interestedly. "That sounds intriguing." Peter tensed, but didn't say anything. As the evening wore on, Jennifer became more and more interested in talking with new acquaintances. Brad talked about his travels, his voice was velvety, his movements smooth. Tom joked, causing Jennifer to laugh loudly. "What do you do, Peter?" Brad asked unexpectedly. "I'm an engineer," he answered, trying to sound confident. "Engineer? Interesting," said Tom. "Apparently, you love accuracy and calculation." "It helps in life," Peter said briefly. Jennifer noticed his reserve and asked, tilting her head slightly. "Everything is fine?" "Yes, I'm just tired after the flight," he answered, trying not to show his true feelings. But thoughts were swarming in his head. Why did Jennifer become so easily attracted to these people? Isn't their bond strong enough? As the evening drew to a close, Brad offered with a smile. "Tomorrow there will be a party on the beach. You must come." "Certainly," Jennifer answered without even looking at Peter. Peter nodded slightly, but inside his anxiety only intensified. Later, when they returned to their room, Jennifer seemed delighted with the evening. "They're so interesting, aren't they?" she asked, taking off her jewelry. "Yes, interesting," Peter answered dryly. "For some reason you are silent today." "It's just, I'm used to something different. This place, these people, everything is too open for me." Jennifer walked over and hugged him. "Peter," she said softly, looking into his eyes, "I'm here with you. No one is more important than you." His tension subsided slightly, but deep down he felt that this place would bring not only adventures, but also tests for their relationship. The next day, Jennifer seemed transformed. She put aside formal outfits, replacing them with revealing swimsuits that attracted greedy glances not only from Brad and Tom, but also from many other men on the beach. Her ringing laughter, confident flirting, and barely noticeable, but increasingly frank touches became the norm. Peter tried his best not to show his anxiety. He assured himself that this was just a vacation game, a manifestation of temporary emancipation. But in the evening, returning to his room, he noticed a message from Brad on Jennifer's phone. When she, citing his fatigue, went to dinner without him, Peter's doubts began to develop into painful suspicions. As the days passed, Peter noticed Jennifer becoming more distant every morning. She left the room before he had time to offer a joint breakfast and returned late in the evening with sparkling eyes, full of some new excitement. "We have yoga at dawn today. I'll go with Brad and Tom," she said one morning, quickly pulling on a light top. "Yoga? You've never been into this before," Peter said quietly, but Jennifer just smiled, kissing him on the cheek. We need to try new things, Peter. That's what we're here for, right? And before he could answer, she was gone. Each time she left made Peter feel more and more out of place. He tried to fill his days with activities, reading a book on the beach, swimming in the pool, going on group excursions, but deep down he knew that something was happening behind his back. Her frequent mentions of Brad and Tom were becoming annoying. "You won't believe how funny Brad talked about his trip to Africa," she said in the evening, taking off her bracelets. "And Tom showed me a place on the beach where you can see the most beautiful fish," she added the next day. Every word she said sounded like a hidden jab to Peter. "Maybe we can spend the day together," he once suggested, trying to speak softly. "Of course, honey," she answered, smiling, but then added, "But tomorrow we already have a boat trip planned." Her "with us" sounded like betrayal. On the third evening, Peter sat for a long time on the terrace of their room, peering into the dark sky. The soft rustling of the ocean, which had previously seemed soothing, now irritated him with its monotony. Anxiety grew inside him, becoming stronger with each time she left. "I must know the truth," he thought, his hand tightening on the camera he had taken with him. When Jennifer left again, saying that she would meet with Brad and Tom, Peter silently followed her. He kept his distance, trying to be inconspicuous. Her path led through illuminated paths, which gradually became quieter and more secluded. Jennifer walked confidently, her light dress fluttered in the wind, and her silhouette disappeared around the turns. Finally, she turned into a private area of the resort, where tall bamboo screens hid everything from the prying eyes of guests. Peter stopped at the edge of the vegetation, trying not to make any noise. His gaze darted around, cozy poofs, soft lighting, and the sounds of soft music coming from the speakers. And there, in the center, he saw them. Jennifer sat on a wide chaise lounge next to Brad. She laughed a laugh that Peter had not heard addressed to him for a long time. Brad held her hand, leaning closer, his smile full of confidence and seduction. "You are so incredible, Brad," she said, her voice soft and warm. These words pierced Peter's heart like needles. He bit his lip, trying to maintain his composure. A moment later, Brad pulled Jennifer close and kissed her. It wasn't an innocent kiss. It was a kiss filled with passion. Her hands slid over his shoulders, and she seemed to give in completely to the moment. Peter gritted his teeth, his hand trembling, but he pressed the camera button. Through the lens, he saw his wife betraying everything they had built. "How could you?" he whispered under his breath, feeling anger mixed with unbearable pain. Soon the scene became even more explicit. Peter wanted to turn away, wanted to drop the camera and just walk away, but something inside him held him back. He took several pictures and videos, recording what he saw, not to save these moments, but to use them as evidence. Returning to the room, he sat on the bed, looking at one point. The camera lay on the table, like a silent witness to what had happened. He replayed what he had seen over and over again in his head. His hands were shaking, but his thoughts were cold and calculating. He had no intention of causing a scandal or taking revenge rashly. He needed time to figure out what to do next. "You chose this yourself, Jennifer," he said quietly into the void. "And now you'll know what you've lost." Peter understood that it was not worth acting on emotions now. He wasn't going to make a scene or persuade her. Instead, he decided to show Jennifer and her new friends that the consequences of their actions would be serious. A plan had matured in his head, and now he wanted to bring it to life. "You chose this path yourself, Jennifer. Now you will know what you have lost," he thought, and a slight but decisive smile appeared on his face. Peter sat on the edge of the bed, holding the camera in his hands, as if deciding exactly how to use the pain that had now become a clear, merciless target. He felt deceived, betrayed, and devastated, but he knew that anger should not be thrown out blindly. He connected the camera to his laptop, sorting through the footage. Images of Jennifer appeared on the screen in front of him, laughing, touching Brad, hugging him, giving in to passion. This was not just a mistake or a momentary hobby, it was a conscious betrayal. "You chose this, Jennifer," he said quietly as he began uploading files to the cloud drive. Peter posted a video and several photos on his social networks. He did not accompany them with angry comments, did not add accusations, just a short message. Sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who will betray you the most. This is what I learned about my marriage. He tagged Jennifer so she could immediately see the post and set up access for her friends and acquaintances. Next, he composed letters for those who were part of her life, her parents, colleagues, and close friends. In each letter, Peter briefly explained the situation, included a video and a photograph, adding, "It pains me to write this, but I feel that you should know the truth. I loved her, supported her in everything, but this was not enough. Let her explain her actions herself." He sent the letters via email and made sure that all recipients received them. Before he left, Peter wrote a letter for Jennifer. He carefully placed it on the bedside table, knowing that she would find it when she returned. "Jennifer, I never thought that I would find myself in a situation where I would have to write such words. I loved you. I believed in us. I was willing to do anything to make you happy, but now I understand that your happiness did not include me. You didn't just betray me, you destroyed everything we built together. I could have screamed and caused a scandal, but I decided to do otherwise. I will show you that your actions have consequences. The video of your betrayal has already been seen by our families, friends, and colleagues. This is not revenge, this is the truth that you chose to hide. I'm not one to tolerate humiliation. I'm not one of those who forgives betrayal. We're done with you. There is no turning back, and there is no forgiveness either. I wish you the best of luck in your new life with Brad or Tom, whoever you decide to stay with. Don't try to find me or contact me. You don't exist to me anymore. Peter." After he left the letter, Peter gathered his things. The suitcase was light, he took only the essentials. His gaze once again fell on the nightstand where the letter lay, and he sighed, feeling the pain recede, giving way to cold calm. He quietly left the room and went to the airport. He left the resort on the first flight, leaving Jennifer to deal with the consequences of her actions. When Jennifer returned to the room, she did not immediately notice Peter's absence. Just seeing his missing things and the letter on the nightstand, she felt a slight chill of fear. After reading the letter, her face turned pale. Soon her phone started blowing up with notifications. She opened social networks and saw that her betrayal had become the property of everyone. Comments from acquaintances and friends, shocked letters from parents, calls from colleagues, all this fell upon her, making her realize that her life would never be the same. Brad and Tom offered no comfort. They knew that this resort was just a place for games and not for anything serious. As a result, Jennifer was left alone, completely immersed in the chaos that she herself created. Jennifer sat on the edge of the bed in the empty room. Silence, so dense that it seemed you could touch it, hung in the air. Her eyes were glued to the folded letter, which she had already read 5 times, but each word stabbed again and again, leaving new wounds on her soul. "How could I?" she whispered, squeezing the letter in her hands, as if this could make her mistakes disappear. Her phone stood on the table, vibrating endlessly with calls and messages. She was afraid to open them, knowing full well that behind them lay disappointment, condemnation, and contempt. She forced herself to look. The first message was from the mother. "Jennifer, what is this? How could you do this to Peter? Call me immediately." Her breathing quickened. The following message from a friend. "I thought you were the perfect couple. Did you really do this? Why?" Each message was like a slap in the face, more painful than the previous one. She threw the phone aside, covered her face with her hands, and began to sob. "I destroyed everything," she whispered. Mentally, she returned to the beginning, to that day in the café when she first saw Peter. His embarrassed smile, his kind gaze, his awkward jokes that she found so charming. He was the one who brought stability, care, and love into her life. She knew that he would always be there, that he was ready to do anything for her. Why wasn't this enough for me? She asked herself, looking at her reflection in the mirror opposite. Her hair was disheveled, her eyes were swollen from tears, and her face was pale. She no longer recognized herself. "You ruined everything, Jennifer." You wanted something new, bright, but forgot that you already had everything. You were stupid. She remembered Brad and Tom again. Their compliments, their attention, their confidence, which for a moment made her feel special, wanted, like she was experiencing a second adolescence. But this feeling turned out to be fleeting, illusory. Now they left without even looking back. She understood. For them, she was just entertainment. And Peter, her voice trembled. He was real. He was my support, my home, and I betrayed him. She remembered how he looked at her on her wedding day, eyes full of love and happiness. She remembered how he supported her dreams, how he helped with photography, how he believed in her even when she didn't believe in herself. You've lost everything, Jennifer, she said to herself, standing up and looking in the mirror, and you have no excuses. She sighed, brushed away her tears, and picked up her suitcase. The room seemed alien and oppressive to her. She felt that she could not stay here another minute. At the reception, while checking out, she glanced at her reflection in the glass. It seemed to her like a ghost of the person she used to be. At the airport, waiting for her flight, she again tried to make excuses, but they were not there. I did it, and now I'll have to live with this, she thought, hugging herself with her arms. Her flight home was the longest of her life. She didn't look out the window, didn't take magazines, didn't listen to music. She just sat there, silent, lost in her thoughts. The words "arrived" lit up on the airport board at home. Jennifer stood up, but couldn't feel her legs. The road home awaited her empty, like everything that was left of her life. Peter walked out of the airport and breathed in the cool evening air. His shoulders were relaxed, his face calm, but there was determination in his eyes. The time at the resort, which should have been the beginning of their happy life together, turned into the end of the story that he had been building for so long. The taxi took him to his parents' house. The lights were on in the windows of the cozy family home, and his heart fluttered at the feeling of warmth and support that he knew he would find here. But before going in, Peter decided to make an important call. He opened his contact list and dialed the number of his lawyer, Mark, with whom he had previously consulted for work. "Hi, Mark, this is Peter," he began calmly. "I have a situation and I need your help." "Of course, Pete. What's happened?" Mark answered, in whose voice there was a readiness to support. Peter explained briefly. "I want to file a divorce. We have been married for less than a month, everything has just begun, but something happened that I cannot forgive. We actually do not have a division of property. We had a rented apartment, and our things were all that would need to be taken." Mark, having listened, replied, "This can be done quickly. Considering that you have no jointly acquired property and no children, the process will be easy if she agrees to sign the documents." "She'll sign," Peter said confidently. "She has nothing to object to." "Fine. I'll prepare all the papers. We can meet tomorrow so you can sign them," the lawyer suggested. "Great. Thank you, Mark," Peter answered briefly and hung up. Entering his parents' house, he saw his mother, Linda, sitting in the living room with a cup of tea. Hearing the sound of the front door, she looked up and, seeing her son, immediately put down her cup. "Peter," her voice was full of excitement and relief. She rushed to hug him. "You're back." "Yes, Mom," he answered quietly, hugging her back. His father, Robert, entered the room after hearing the noise. "Is everything all right, son?" he asked, looking closely at Peter. Peter nodded. "Yes, everything is fine now." Linda sat next to him on the sofa, her eyes searching for answers. "What happened, Peter? We saw your post on the internet, and we are shocked." "She cheated on me," he said briefly, clenching his hands. "On the honeymoon, right after the wedding." The mother put her hand to her mouth, and the father pursed his lips, clearly suppressing his anger. "I'm sorry, son." "You deserve better," Robert said, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I've already contacted a lawyer to file for divorce," Peter continued. "Now I need to pick up my things from the apartment and move them here." "Of course we will help you," Linda said softly. The next day, Peter went to their rented apartment. He opened the door and looked around. The apartment seemed empty and cold, despite the familiar surroundings. This place used to be filled with laughter and comfort, but now it was just a space full of memories that he wanted to forget. He collected his things, clothes, books, equipment. I took away the photographs that they once hung on the walls. He did not touch her things, leaving everything that belonged to Jennifer in its place. Peter called a truck and carried his boxes to his parents' house. Once the things were moved, Linda helped him unpack them. Her soft hands carefully laid out the clothes, and her voice was full of warmth. "You made the right choice," she said. "Better now than later." "I know, Mom," he answered. It all fell apart so quickly." "You're strong, Peter," Robert added, standing next to him, "and we will always be close." Sitting in his old room, which had now become a temporary refuge, Peter felt that despite the pain, he was not alone. He had a family that loved and supported him. Now he had to move on and build a new life, a life where no one would betray him. The days after returning home stretched for Peter into an endless series of thoughts and plans. He felt the pain of loss, but this pain no longer frightened him. She became a lesson for him, a reminder that trust is a gift that cannot be given away thoughtlessly. His morning began with the usual cup of coffee in his parents' kitchen. Linda often sat opposite him with a soft smile, serving him toast or a plate of fruit. She didn't ask anything unnecessary, but her presence indicated that she was nearby, ready to support at any moment. "Have you thought about what you will do next?" his father once asked, looking at his son through the newspaper. Peter nodded thoughtfully. "Yes, I want to focus on work. I need something to help me move forward." "This is a good decision," Robert supported him. "Sometimes business is the best medicine for a broken heart." Returning to the office, Peter felt strange. Colleagues who knew about his recent marriage looked at him with caution, clearly not daring to ask questions. His boss, Mr. Grayson, called him into his office. "Peter, good to see you back in action," he began. "I hope you're okay." "Thank you, sir." "We just need a change," Peter answered. "Great," Grayson smiled. "We just have a new project, and I want you to lead it. This is a complex but promising contract. If you do it, it can seriously advance your career." Peter agreed enthusiastically. Working on the project became his salvation. He felt in his element again, immersing himself in calculations, schedules, and problems. This helped to distract myself and gradually heal mental wounds. One of Peter's first steps toward recovery was reconnecting with the friends he had nearly forgotten during his years with Jennifer. "Hey man, I'm glad you're back," said Jason, one of his longtime friends, when they met at the bar. "We were all shocked when we saw your post." "Yes, it wasn't easy," Peter admitted, raising his glass. "But now I'm looking forward to it." "And you're doing the right thing," Jason supported. "And you know what else? It's time for you to relax a little." Jason organized a meeting with friends to get Peter out of his usual circle of work and family. They kayaked, played board games, and just joked about life. These moments filled Peter with the feeling that he was not alone, that he had people ready to support him. One day, returning home after a long day of work, Peter walked into the same cafe where he once met Jennifer. He hesitated for a long time, but finally decided that it was time to stop avoiding this place. There was a new waitress behind the counter. She was a sweet girl with warm brown eyes and a bright smile. When Peter ordered, she asked, "Have you been here before? I think I've seen you somewhere." "Yes," he answered briefly, "a long time ago." "Then it's good to see you again," she said, handing him coffee. Her sincerity touched Peter. He sat down at a table by the window and for the first time in a long time felt that perhaps his life could begin to change. Peter was in no hurry. He decided to focus on himself, on his goals and desires. The past no longer seemed such a heavy burden, and every day he felt the pain recede, giving way to a new beginning. Sometimes he thought about Jennifer. He felt sorry for her, but he no longer felt angry. He knew that he had done all he could, and that now she had to deal with the consequences of her decisions herself. His journey had just begun, but this time he was sure that in the future not only difficulties awaited him, but also the happiness that he deserved. After returning home, Jennifer was faced with a cruel reality. Her phone was full of condemning messages, but the calls stopped after a few days. None of her loved ones wanted to communicate with her anymore. Her mother, Catherine, who had always been her support, abruptly ended the conversation when Jennifer tried to explain herself. Jennifer, I loved you more than life itself, but I can't understand how you could betray Peter. I was proud of you, and now I'm ashamed. With these words, Catherine hung up. The friends who had always been there pulled away as soon as the truth came out. Jennifer was left alone in her rented apartment. Trying to avoid judgmental glances, she avoided going out unless necessary. Even her job as a photographer, which she so aspired to, suffered. Clients refused her services after learning about her scandalous history. A month later, Jennifer began to feel unwell. Morning sickness and dizziness became too common to ignore. At first, she thought it was the result of stress and lack of sleep, but doubts forced her to buy a pregnancy test. Her heart was beating like a drum was breaking in her chest as she looked at the two clear stripes. No, she whispered, sitting down on the cold bathroom floor. This can't be. Tears began to flow down her cheeks. Thoughts rushed chaotically. Child, what to do now? Is this St. Petersburg? Her mind couldn't give an exact answer. Memories of those nights at the resort and her betrayal surfaced before my eyes. She was sick not only from her physical condition, but also from the awareness of the possible consequences. What if it's not his child? She whispered, covering her face with her hands. Jennifer began searching for answers. She visited a doctor who confirmed the pregnancy, indicating that the due date coincided with her honeymoon. It could be Peter's child, but there was no certainty. She spent sleepless nights wondering about her future. She understood, even if the child turned out to be Peter's, it would not change anything. He won't forgive her. He won't want to come back. The next day, Jennifer decided to call her mother, hoping for support. Mom, I'm pregnant, she said, trying to speak firmly, although her voice trembled treacherously. There was silence on the other end of the line. Then Catherine asked quietly, Are you sure? Yes, but I don't know whose child this is, Jennifer sobbed. Jennifer, the mother's voice was full of pain, you destroyed everything you had. This child, he is innocent, but how are you going to raise him alone? Have you thought about this? I thought, Mom, I'm scared, Jennifer admitted. This is your cross, and you will have to bear it yourself, Catherine answered coldly. But if this is Peter's child, you have to tell him the truth. Jennifer spent several days in doubt. Finally, she texted Peter. Peter, I understand that for you, I no longer exist, but I have to tell you, I'm pregnant. This could be your child. I'm not asking for forgiveness or return. I just had to say, you deserve to know the truth. The message was sent, but there was no response. Peter read it, but didn't answer. A few months later, Jennifer gave birth to a boy. Looking at the tiny creature in her arms, she felt hope for the first time in a long time. I will give you everything you deserve, she whispered, kissing the baby on the forehead. She decided to name him Liam, after her favorite character in the book Peter read to her. Jennifer submitted for a DNA test to establish paternity. The test confirmed Liam was Peter's son. Jennifer did not contact Peter again. After a paternity test confirmed that Liam was her ex-husband's son, she decided to leave it at that. Her choice to raise her son on her own was conscious. She understood that she had broken their past life and knew that she had no right to interfere with his destiny again. Liam became both joy and pain for Jennifer. Every time she looked into his face, she saw Peter's features: deep, intelligent eyes, a sincere smile, a slightly upturned nose. It contained the one who was her main love and a reminder of what she had lost. But Liam became her everything. He was her chance to fix at least some of what had been broken. In the early years of motherhood, Jennifer faced challenges that she had never thought about before. Raising a child alone was not easy. Sleepless nights, limited budget, fatigue. However, every morning when Liam opened his eyes and smiled at her with his childish, carefree smile, Jennifer felt that it was all worth it. She returned to photography, but now it was not just her job, but a means of self-expression. Her photographs became deeper and more emotional. She captured moments full of love and longing, life and loss, as if trying to convey her feelings through a lens. Jennifer photographed Liam at every stage of his life. His first steps, his first smile, his first day of school. These photographs became her treasure. As Liam grew older, he started asking questions. "Mom, where is my dad?" He asked one day when they were 7 years old. He sat in the kitchen, painting an album with bright colors. Jennifer froze, feeling her heart skip a beat. She knew this question would come up sooner or later. "Dad, he's a very good person," she answered, trying to keep her voice from trembling. "But we don't live together. It's a complicated story, Liam. But he is very smart, kind, and I'm sure he would want you to be happy." Liam thought for a moment and then smiled, turning back to his drawing. "Then I will try to make him proud of me," he said with childish sincerity. The years passed. Liam grew up as an inquisitive and kind boy. He was her pride, her joy, her meaning of life. Jennifer did everything to give him the best she could. She was a strict but loving mother who always found time to talk to her son about his dreams, support him in difficult moments, or simply laugh at his jokes. But along with joy came pain. Every time Liam spoke or laughed, Jennifer saw Peter. Sometimes she wanted to tell her son the whole truth, but she was afraid. She was afraid that he would judge her, that he would decide to find her father and turn away from her. The only thing she could do was teach him to be better than her. She told him about honesty, about how important it is to keep your word and appreciate those around you. "Never betray those who love you, Liam," she told him when he was a teenager. "This is the worst thing you can do." Liam has grown up. He became a talented artist, inspired by his mother and her photographs. His paintings were filled with light and deep emotions. At one of his exhibitions, he exhibited a portrait of his mother, calling it "My Heroine." Jennifer, looking at her reflection in the strokes of his brush, could not hold back her tears. "You gave me everything, Mom," Liam said, hugging her. "Everything I know, everything I have become, is thanks to you." These words became for her the consolation that she had been looking for all her life. Jennifer lived her life alone, but she didn't feel lonely. Her house was full of memories, photos of Liam, his childhood crafts, drawings, and letters. She knew she had made many mistakes, but she believed that her son was her chance to atone for them. She had never loved anyone the way she loved Peter. His image lived in her memory until the very end. Sometimes she dreamed about how their lives might have turned out if she had made different choices. But these dreams were only a faint echo of the past. In her old age, sitting in a chair by the window with a photo album on her lap, Jennifer looked at the photographs she had taken throughout her life. Among them were those where Peter was. She stroked them with a trembling hand, feeling her eyes fill with tears. "You were my main love," she whispered, looking at his smile, "and my biggest regret." But looking at pictures of Liam, she knew that despite everything, she had lived a life that was full of love, even if at the cost of her loneliness. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think. Click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one.